One of our biggies that we've worked on every year, and we continue to work on it, we train on it, is isolation of operating machinery and electrical safety, which is lockout, tagout, and verify. That's one of the great things that we have really improved on, and you can never be too good at it, because if you're not good at it, somebody's going to die. So we want to make sure that we're doing that. We're documenting the short I see out in the plants and stuff is sometimes we don't complete the lockout, tagout logs, and those are very important to show that we're doing those. And we test, and it's just a way of it's our culture. We need to make sure we're doing it, and by doing the training that we've done, taking it out to you, showing the difference. We've shown where there's been failures in switches and breakers, that if that was in use, and proper lockout, tagout, and the verify. Very important to verify that it's not energized, because you can lock it and tag out, and there still could be something broke into that switch, and it's still transmitting energy to the workers out there. So the verify is very important, and there's all kinds of other things that can happen from one day to the other. A line can fall down that you're not aware of and energize a line. The weather can cause it. We've had issues with lightning that can mess up the normal circuits, and you think it's not energized, and you take for granted that it's not because you locked it out and tagged it out. But unless you verify and make sure that it's not using, and we bought meters to do that with, that's how we save someone from getting hurt. And we've had those near misses happen every year of either the equipment malfunctions and it's still energized, or some other cause from the weather or natural occurrence, or it just shorts out and we don't know it. But the verify is the most important part that we do on that. That's our last chance to catch it. So we want to make sure we're doing that.
What that does is eliminate the variables of something unbeknownst to the employee, basically, right, Jail?
Yes.
Out of nowhere, something unexpected. Same thing with the procedure. That's why the procedures are there. Follow.
Yeah, years ago I was learning to do the ground continuity testing, and we thought everything was turned off in the area, and the old electrician that was there, he had his meter, power was killed to the control room. He went back and checked his meter, and there was an unexpected wire left over from who knows when it had been added, but it was still energized. It didn't even go through the MCC at that location. It came from somewhere else, so that's why you check everything. If he had not done that, one of us could have got hurt that day. So.
Yeah, lockout tagout's a life-saving rule, again, for a reason. And each of us have stories about lockout tagout. We've had multiple incidents across the company regarding lockout tagout, serious injuries and fatalities. And JL and Chase both talked about the verification process and why that is important. And we talked a minute ago about failures. There will be failures of equipment. Breakers and switchgear have a shelf life, just like everything else does. And people flip those breakers, make mistakes. I was at a site years ago and witnessing a lockout tagout event, and they locked it out, flipped the breakers, put their locks on, and then the key piece, as JL and Chase says, they went to verify and they hit the button, and the conveyor started up. So everybody was like in a panic, figuring what did they do wrong. But really, it was great that happened, because it did show the importance of the verification process. And they were able to go back and see where they had flipped the wrong breaker. They just looked at it wrong, or they just looked at it and flipped the wrong button for whatever reason, made a mistake. We all make mistakes. but the verification process ensured that they were safe before they went out and went to work out there on the conveyor changing out the motor.
And with lockout, tagout, a big issue in a plant or quarry, that a belt line or something that's away from control room is all that. One of the main important parts is communication of all of those involved. It's doing the repair or the troubleshooting. You cannot have too much communication that everybody's communicating, and then you go back to the risk assessment on that. This is what if type thing. So if everybody's communicating and understanding the hazards, which it could be electric, it could be gravity, it could be high pressure air or pneumatic or hydraulic, many different things there that we have to watch out for. And in being with Mountain, as we went through many times doing audits and things, and we have our lockout tagout programs, and we try our best to keep those up to date. But there's been many times out there that a certain repair that's not normally done, as we realize that there's another hazard there not associated with electric or high pressure, gravity takes in place. So when we find those, we go back and update that lockout tagout program. And everybody does a good job at doing that, but we want to continue that. And when we find those places, because most of our plants are old and have been added to and taken away and over the years, so we still do find those issues that we missed something, and we want to check it. That's where verification comes back in again. So.
Yeah, that's a good point. If you add a component, make sure to have a procedure written for that component if it's added or replaced, basically. We're constantly changing equipment, repairing, and also do the annual review. Make sure to go over that your procedures every year, at least, to go through, walk through them, make sure you even still have that component, that procedure is still accurate, and go from there.
And one good way of doing that is our electricians, every year when they do the ground continuity test, is a good time to go back through your lockout tagout on electrical issues and make sure the labeling is correct. That's a good way to find. We have found a few problems over the years just doing ground continuity testing that a label was not correct or misrepresented, and it's just because things gets changed. So by doing that every year, that's a good tool in combination with the lockout tagout to make sure that it's all there and all the information is needed. And we take advantage or take for granted that the same employees is there every day working on it, and they know their plant and they know their equipment. But at any given time, someone could come from another plant to help work on it, or a contractor can come in and they know nothing about their plant, but you take an up-to-date lockout tagout and the ground continuity, they can understand that, and along with the arc flash that we do. It's made us a lot better company by doing this and a lot safer. So
Training is also a big piece of lockout tagout. We've talked a lot about the fundamentals of what lockout tagout is, but the education of our folks of what the process looks like. We have one lock, one key, one person, right? So when you're locking a breaker out, the key goes in your pocket when you put your lock on. Throughout the year, whenever training time comes around, we'll verify that each individual understands not only what lockout tagout is, but they know how to lock out. So what does it mean to lock out, at your location, the practical application of the process and how you understand it. So training is a big piece, understanding, education of what lockout tagout is and what it means to each individual at their local sites.
It's important to note that if they're not trained and they're not comfortable with operating or performing maintenance, they shouldn't be doing it.
correct.
Good point. Continuing on with lockout tagout, we'll talk about close proximity maintenance. There are some tasks, even though we try to limit them, there are some tasks that require a component to be energized. So whether that's a training of a belt or another process that requires energization, that's a word. If it's energized, then we have to have a special job safety analysis in place for that. So it has to be identified. Those types of tasks have to be identified. They have to have a specific process in place, and there has to be eyes on someone who's close to that process. So if I'm adjusting the belt, it has to be on. If JL can see me, he's got his hand on the switch to be able to turn the power off if something gets sideways. That's really the definition of a CPM task. So what those look like at your local site, at a quarry, at an asphalt plant, wherever you may be, there are not very many, but there are a few, and we just have to make sure that we're protecting ourselves and each other while we're doing those types of tasks.
As I talked about the arc flash, we're finishing up, I guess we call a second generation of arc flash in some of our plants this year. And as we go through those, that has become a really good tool to find things that needs to be improved. And with Mountain, we were one of the first companies that I know of in this part of the country to even do that. And of course, we've had our own near misses with arc flash. This year we had a lightning strike that we were lucky that no one was there when it happened. We've had breakers fail and cause an arc flash over the years. So this is something that is very dangerous, and that's why we have got the proper equipment that if we have to do work and then underload, that our PPE is up to date. All of our guys are trained in it, and those that are not actively in that part of work needs to get away and let the electricians and technicians have the proper equipment and PPE. And with the arc flash studies comes the distance to stay away from it while it's open. We do a lot of training on that. Very important. The arc flash, years and years ago, you would just hear of accidents of people getting electrocuted. They died at a facility, and over the years it turned out that they weren't getting electrocuted, they were dying from an arc flash blast. So now, over the years with OSHA and with CRH, we took that very serious, that we have eliminated, or if it happens, we're going to be protected from it with the proper equipment. In those areas that you cannot get the right equipment, there's some areas that they don't make enough equipment, PPE, to protect you. If we got to do something there, we'll pull the power at the whole facility and then make repairs and then fire it back up. So it's very important. And anybody out there working around the plant has any questions about the arc flash, new employees and stuff, we want you to ask those questions, and we'll take the time to explain it to you, that we're safe, but you can never be too safe. It's something you got to always respect while plant's in operation or doing repairs on it. Another important part of what we do at our plants and our rock quarries and even our mobile equipment, even here in the lab with the equipment they use, is machine guarding. All the guards are all in place. All those pinch points and areas to where someone could get entangled in the equipment, or even their shirt sleeve can get in there. We want to guard all those, and that's one of our big issues. And while we do the cross audits, there's so many moving parts to a plant, and bringing somebody over for the cross audits has really come in handy, been a great tool to use, because people working at that plant can work there for a year or two, and somebody new comes in and finds another pinch point or another shaft or a belt or a pulley that we just missed. You get tunnel vision, and then we set out a plan to fix it. All of our guards are mounted. The rule of thumb is it's got to be in a place that it at least requires a tool to remove it. These things are always in use. They can break and fall off. If we have to finish the day, we make sure that that area is secured and guarded, and no one goes in that area. And then at the very quickest moment we can, we repair that guard and fix it back, bolt it back, weld it back, tie it back. Many different ways of doing that. And our folks have got really creative making guards. We can take a pile of junk and make some really good guards out of it. And I know there's probably still some out there, so that's where everybody always looking for those areas. We want to make sure that we make it the place that, my rule of thumb is a plan or a quarry that you can walk through it, that your 5-year-old child or grandchild can walk through and can't get hurt, or they falling down or sticking their hand where they don't need. We need to look at it that way, is to make it as safe as possible, where you can't get hurt pulled into a belt or gears or shafts and all those things.
That's a good idea to do a walkthrough to look the place around. See any guards missing or need replaced, go ahead and let somebody know or fix it.
And one other thing, talking about guarding, Chase talked a lot about, plant type of guards on pulleys, shafts and whatnot, but we have a lot of infrastructure around our plants and locations. We have transformers, we have gas lines, we have a lot of different things that are critical to the operation of the location. So those types of infrastructure need to be guarded as well. So whether it's a bullard in place, or whether it's a concrete blocks, or just a couple boulders put around a piece of infrastructure, a gas line or whatnot, it's important to protect them. Last thing we want is an accident regarding a transformer for the obvious reason of the injury and the potential harm that can cause, but it also shuts down the location for an indefinite period of time until that gets repaired.
And also on your return rollers, keep in mind 7 feet. If it's within 7 feet, even if you have spillage underneath the roller, then that has to be guarded. That's often overlooked sometimes. That's an area that needs to definitely be looked at sometimes.